ourselves have the biggest impact on our mental health in a negative way. And what I mean by that is that we often put ourselves into stressful situations that negatively impact us. The decisions that we make that we know maybe aren't good for us, but we continue to do it. And so you have to kind of dig deeper and really understand why the hell it is that you're doing this. What's up, y'all? Cody on here, and today is maybe the 14th episode of the Fill the Gap podcast. Maybe it's the 13th. I should really get so much better than that, being that I've done so many of these. Or I don't say so many, but yeah, it's a lot of time in my life, you know? These episodes aren't just easy to do. We got a team that edits them. Got me that records them here alone in my office. But anyway, newest episode of the Fill the Gap podcast. It is the middle of May, Mental Health Awareness Month, and today the podcast is sponsored by the one and only Cuts Clothing. Cuts Clothing is the best men's and now women's, we'll call it, for the sport of business line on the market. I've been a Cuts partner, athlete, ambassador, whatever you want to call me, for the last few years. I was looking for a shirt that fit all the right places and outside of me just having to get in better shape sometimes, but a shirt that I felt comfortable with, one that I could wear going out, one that I could wear going to work, one that I could wear on a date, whatever the hell it might be, hanging out with my boys. And Cuts hit it out of the park with their shirts. They continue to be innovative. They continue to come up with the best stuff in the game. And I love the team over there, every single one of them, even you, Ethan. And so yeah, use my code, the Cody Allen. You're going to get a discount on anything that you buy from Cuts at any time. I'm telling you, you guys, try them out. Girls, buy the stuff for your guys. Girls, buy the stuff for yourself. Guys, definitely buy it for yourself. And they just rolled out Cuts Women. So check out their entire new line. They're continuing to drop stuff every single Friday. With that being said, moving on to the next, this podcast is also sponsored by Just Live CBD. So if you've been with me for years now, since about 2018, I've been an advocate of CBD, how it fits into my life from an athlete standpoint, from an entrepreneur standpoint, from a person standpoint, and how it helps me cope with some of the anxieties and stressors that I have, along with the aches and pains and ailments that I have from being a former athlete, with even just the stuff that I do to myself now today in like all these flag football leagues and softball, baseball leagues. But nonetheless, Just Live CBD is Mental Health Awareness Month, and one of the big mental health stressors that people deal with is anxiety, and CBD has been scientifically proven to help possibly aid with anxiety. So check them out. You can use the code CODY25, and you guys are going to get 25% off anything from their store. This is a dope company. It was started by Clay Thompson, Travis Pastrana, Paul Rodriguez, Alex Morgan, people from every sport damn near, and they know what they're talking about. So let's get into it now that the ads are out of the way. Mental Health Awareness Month. Something I want to talk about today is how we ourselves, this is almost most of the time, have the biggest impact on our mental health in a negative way. And what I mean by that is that we often put ourselves into stressful situations that negatively impact us. I am an advocate of putting yourselves into stressful situations so that you can continually test, sharpen the sword, become hardened, so that you know how to cope with certain things in your life, right? Some of the things we put ourselves through are things we know better, right? The decisions that we make that we know time and time again that we know maybe aren't good for us. We know maybe there isn't going to be a positive outcome necessarily, but we continue to do it. And so you have to kind of dig deeper and really understand why the hell it is that you're doing this. One of those being, one of the good things I see in regards to the amount of stress that we put on ourselves is taking risks. So contrary to popular belief, I don't even know if people actually think this about me, but I've heard of this. I am not a big risk taker, and people often will tell me Cody, it seems like you're an entrepreneur. You took a shot on yourself playing football. You are so quick to make decisions. You make easy decisions, right? You portray yourself in a way that you just seem, I don't know, I'm not saying this is me, seem like you got it figured out. I am the furthest away from fucking figuring it out, figuring my life out, it seems, at any one point. And partially that is because I get stuck in my ways and I get in my own way so often. It's easy for me to be like, this is the right decision to make. But I definitely get stuck in the mud sometimes, you know, because my entire life I've been extremely conservative, extremely passive is probably the wrong word, but taking a lot of risks for me leave me susceptible to disappointment, hurt. I won't necessarily heartache, but heartache kind of sometimes if you're talking about taking risks in relationships. But let's take this for example. When I finally started to play football in high school, because I didn't start till high school, and you guys should have read that in my book. If you haven't gotten it by now, check it out on my website. Shameless plug. When I finally started to play football in high school, I was getting these letters from all these schools, and I started playing. I went to high school 2006, 2009, or 2005, 2009, and 2006 was the year that USC went to the national championship against Texas. It was the best college football championship ever played. Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Dwayne Jarrett, Vince Young was on the other team. Limas Sweet, I think, was on that team. Doesn't matter. None of this shit matters. What I'm trying to say is that I fell in love with USC football. USC was the school at the time, and when I started getting recruited, I would often talk about, like, oh, I want to go to USC. That's University of Southern California, because the Gamecocks are not the USC. And it's so anxiety triggering or kind of embarrassing at times to share your dreams and to share your wants and to share your needs, and to share your goals, because if you fall short of them, then everybody knows, right? And so when I was a junior in high school, I started getting a lot of scholarship looks from teams and even scholarship offers. And I remember I went to a football camp at USC, and it was Pete Carroll, it was Ray Maluga was there. I mean, none of these people matter. USC was a big deal for me. And I went down there with my parents in LA and had a good camp, but they weren't looking at me seriously to be recruited at all. And I kind of understood that as the game kind of went on, the recruiting game. And I shared with, like, my family and my parents, like, oh yeah, like, I want to go here. I want to play football here, whatever it is, right? This is the number one school in the nation at the time. And I remember my mom, the next year, bless her heart, got me a yearbook, like my senior yearbook. And on it said, like, Cody Allen, class 2009. And then underneath that, it said USC bound and had a football on it. And I love my mom so fucking much. She will support me through anything. I love my mom. She's just the best person I've ever met. And she doesn't give a shit about football. She only gives a shit about her son. She'll bend over backwards to make sure that I'm taken care of emotionally, even like financially, physically, whatever the hell it is, right? And she always has been. She'll break her back doing it. And I remember seeing that on my yearbook, and it made me really emotional because two things. One, my mom thinks the world of me. She thinks I could do whatever the hell I want to do in my life. And two, I remember feeling so embarrassed because I didn't have a scholarship offer from USC. I was getting looks from Arizona State and other Pac-12 schools in Utah and even UW, but not USC. USC was the number one school in the nation. They recruited monsters. I believe that I wasn't good enough to play there. That's what I thought at the time. And I took a pen to that yearbook and I scratched out the USC bound on the front. And I still have that yearbook. And that's just such a big fuck you to my mom, who supported me and anybody who supported me along the way. But more along the lines of a fuck you to me, because I was too embarrassed and I let my pride get in the way of something that I wanted to obtain, a goal that I wanted to attain rather. And I sold myself short. Was I going to go to SC? No. I mean, probably not. I mean, I don't think that I possess the skill set. Maybe, I don't know. I still have self-doubt even to this day. But it's more symbolic of the fact that I wasn't willing to take a risk, and I got super comfortable with where I was at just in fear, just because I feared failing, you know? And that was the first time in my young life that now that I can look back and be like, I really just sold myself short because I was too afraid to fall. So when I say I've been conservative a majority of my life, I have taken the path sometimes that might be viewed as, it's all relative, right? Sometimes that's been easier for me. So what I mean by that, and it's relative because I've had successes in life that maybe have been harder for other people, but for me, especially when it comes to sports, I feel like I took the easy path. And that is because I didn't have the self-confidence that I needed that would push me through some of the hard times maybe. And so when I talk about taking risks now, people talk about, Cody, well, you start a business, you do this, you do that. And it's like, yeah, I've learned to take risks in some aspects of my life, but in a lot of ways, I feel like I am capping my potential on what my life could be because I'm not giving myself the opportunity to really, really get down to the nuts and bolts of how can I build myself into the biggest way and the most happy way, the most prosperous way that I can. This has been throughout my life an issue for me when it comes to work, sports, relationships. I've settled a lot of times in relationships, not as the type of person that they are. They've been great in their own rights, right? But I mean, knowing that we didn't have maybe the type of love that you see on... I watch chick flicks with my mom. I watch chick flicks. I do it. I've always done it. It is what it is. But when you talk about like that fairy tale type of love, I've definitely in the past settled in not realizing that that wasn't out there. But again, that comes to risk. That comes to taking risk. And I guess it's all relative because if I could see into the future and I knew what was going to happen if I did certain moves in my life, it would be a lot easier to make those moves. Hindsight's always 20/20. But no risk, no reward. And so I feel like I've taken calculated risks. I guess the whole point of this podcast and just like me to flesh out some deep-seated issues that I have. I urge everybody that has any sort of goal or passion to go after it, but do it with some sort of calculated risk, right? I'm not saying like if you're, I don't know. What I'm basically trying to say is if it seems obtainable to you in any way, if for a second you don't think that you could live your life without knowing or what if, or saying like what if, then what kind of life are you really trying to lead? Always wondering. And I feel like a lot of people out there are living an average life because they are choosing to do so because they're afraid of what the alternative might be. I've been one of them for so long. I have tried to create a life that's the best for me. And I feel like the more that I do that, the happier that I am either way. Yes, will I make mistakes along the way? Yes, will you make mistakes along the way? But at the same time, what if are the two most dangerous words that you could ever live with. Because I think that if you die with what ifs, you never really lived your life. I should get that fucking tattooed on me. I'm sure somebody said it. I'm sure somebody put it in the Instagram meme or whatever somewhere at some point. if you're going to put stressors on yourself, make sure that they're worth it. Make sure that they're calculated. Make sure that what you're fighting for is worth it to you in the end. Because there's so much shit out there that is just kind of cumbersome and weighs you down, that the last thing you need to do is be wondering if that was a better option for you while you're working on something currently. I have a friend who does music, and I don't even know if that's right when you say does music, but he sat me down at one point and he's like, hey, Cody, like, this is my shot to really push through this in my life. I want to give this 100% effort, and this is what I want to do, because I don't want to live a life where I was thinking, hey, I didn't give it all at least one point in my life. Now, I'm not saying to be a 55-year-old still, I don't know, trying out for the MLB or some shit like that, or going to pro days for the NFL, or I don't know. But what I'm saying is give yourself a fucking grade A effort at whatever it is that you want in life. And then when the dust is settled, if you feel like you haven't moved on, or you can't move on, or you can move on, or you feel good about the effort that you put in, move on to the next thing in your life. That kind of goes back to last episode about spinning your wheels, you know. And just bless my mom for putting that on my... I kind of got like teary-eyed thinking about that. I've never really thought about how I scratched that out. My mom, who probably would have pinched every penny together even to send me to USC just so that I could try out for the football team. You know, parents are so fucking special. If you have good parents or parent, whatever it is, let them know you love them. If you are a parent, be the best fucking parent you could be, because you will dramatically affect your life, their life, and then everybody's life who they come in contact with for the rest of theirs. So, sorry that took a weird turn at the end, but we've been doing this thing for our amount of time, so you guys know the deal. Follow me on all channels, The Cody Allen. Also visit my website, grab my book, Forever Athlete. I've been getting good feedback so far from the people who have read it. I didn't have any grammatical errors. That's huge for me because I'm not quite the writer. And yeah, if you guys have anything else that you guys want to talk about on the Fill the Gap, drop them in the comments below. Send me topics. Maybe we'll get a hotline calling in pretty soon where people can like leave like, I don't know, like voicemails or some shit. I don't know. That's all, y'all.